So back to humor. I told you I wasn't funny. I'm not good at humor. So I know that about myself, so I want to give you guys a strategy. If you feel like you're at all like me and you're not really good at delivering humorous things, don't deliver it. Get someone else to deliver it for you. So an example would be inserting a video that gets the point across, but that also inserts some humor. So when I speak to businesses and Fortune 500 companies, a lot of the times I'm speaking about advertising and marketing and why it's so important that they're consistent. And they say, yeah, why is it that it's so important that we're consistent? You know, why do we have to do it forever? And I said, well, you know, I give them the diet example, and I said, you know what? Better that I don't explain it. It's better to have my friend over here explain it. So let me have my friend here explain why advertising is so important like exercise. Right? You gotta stick with it, right? Yeah. I'm not funny, the video's funny, right? So I can still insert humor, and this is a strategy that you guys can use. If you want to bring some levity to a situation, especially if you're speaking about a very serious subject, right? You do want to bring some levity into it so it shows that, number one, they were memorable and they made me feel happy, because things come down to feelings. You want people to feel happy, bring some levity into it. That's relevant. This is something that I bring that's relevant to businesses to help them understand why it's important, right, as an example. So, testimonials, right? This could be an example. Yeah?
Can I answer real quick?
Sure.
It just came to me, like with that one that you just did, you were able to find humor in it. What happens if you're talking, let's say, to a group of caregivers for people who are in their last stage of Alzheimer's?
Right.
How do you find something humorous to tell them?
In that case, I would use a particular analogy, okay? So what do people find humorous in life in general that would be analogous to whatever it is they do, right? So for example, perhaps you could find a video that shows these elderly people when they were taking care of kids, and now the kids are taking care of the elderly. So life kind of does this 180 on us, right? And all of a sudden we can all laugh at the fact, because it's going to happen to all of us, or it's happening to all of us at some point or another, where once we were the ones taken care of, and it shows, maybe you're showing a video of, somebody washing a baby, and then all of a sudden someone in their 30s or 40s that's washing an elderly person. You can see sometimes life changes on us, right? We were once the ones that were caring, and now we're the ones that are cared for, right?
Always with an upbeat focus.
Always with an upbeat focus. And it doesn't necessarily have to be laugh out loud funny. Sometimes you're just showing clever snippets, insight into our lives that are like, yeah, I guess that's true, right? Something to make you smile, to say, that's true, I never thought about it like that, right? It doesn't have to be laugh out loud, like, for example, that was, right? So testimonials. Why do you want testimonials? Okay? Testimonials are important, right? You might not want to use Sarah Palin, right? But she's going to say, I told you so, right? Because you want to make sure you're saying, don't take my word for it, right? You don't want them to just listen to you. You want to have testimonials, right? So a testimonial would be, this could be a video. I left it blank on purpose. What do you want to insert? A video? A picture? A quote? Perhaps this is a great time, if you really want to bring some drama into your speech, have a plant in your audience where you bring somebody from the audience that says, this person is living proof of having done what I'm telling you all to do, and let them tell their story. Right? Bring them up to the mic for 1 minute and say, this is a time for testimonial. Because again, we're in sales. This is the same process. You're telling them on your advice, right? Get them to buy into it by bringing someone up, okay? This would be a great example of somebody that, survived a disease, overcame a hardship, right? Made it through a certain stage of life, right? Took action on the words or advice you gave them. Yeah?
Going back to the other one, I know that on Google you can get photos and things, but
Mm-hmm.
can you also get video clips?
Absolutely.
Okay.
If you Google anything and then press enter, if you look on the left-hand side of Google, okay, it'll say images, videos, documents. You can pick any of those and you can click on videos. It'll give you videos on all those things. If you do a Google search on football, okay, and this could be on anything, it could be on football, and you Google it, on the left you can see football pictures, football videos, football images, football documents, football information,
And those are all,
and those are all free.
right.
Nope, all available for you to use, right? All available for you to use, yeah. So what I would do is insert as much of that as possible. If it's not something you can actually download too, you want to be able to have internet access, so sometimes you can have that internet site up and ready, so you can say, let me switch out of the presentation and go to that link right now and show the video. Maybe it's on YouTube, right? That's another way you can do it. If you can't actually insert it into your presentation, you can always just go to that link as another option. Okay, so a couple different ways you can do that. So, couple other ways that you can use images, guys. So, if I wanted to say to all of you today, which is what I do want to say, my goal with all of you is twofold. My first goal is to give you perspective on being a better public speaker, okay? And then I'm showing you an image of perspective, right? Someone on Earth that it looks like they're holding the sun. So I show an image of perspective. Why? This is how the human mind works. It's analogous, all right? If I'm talking about perspective, I also want to show what perspective is. That's what I mean, right? I'm giving you a different way of seeing things. And at the same time, I'm getting my point across. You want to insert more of this, all right? If you want to make people heart healthy, and that's the particular thing that you're speaking about today, show things that are analogous to heart health, okay? Those are examples you want to give, right? I found this Heroes sign, right, from the TV show Heroes. It said, my job is to make all of you public speaking heroes, right? But it's something that people recognize as a pop culture icon, because again, it's important to be, remember what we talked about being relevant? I'm using something relevant, okay? So if your pictures are old from the 70s or the 80s, you might want to update those, right? That's something I was consulting with a company on, where their visuals, they had a lot of visuals, but the visuals were old. It showed people, you know, in the 80s and early 90s, and I said, it's not relevant. If people want to think this is cutting edge material, here's an easy way to make the cutting edge material. Don't change the material, just change the visuals. Same material, and all of a sudden, guess what happened to their closing ratio? Went up 33%. Just by changing the visuals, never touching the content. You still don't think visuals are important? Rethink it. Rethink it. Yeah, exactly. That's how the human mind thinks. So you want to make sure you insert that. Did you have a question? I thought, no. Okay. So, I have to handle this situation delicately with all of you, because most of us were brought up to be very grateful, right? And we are grateful. However, sometimes it can actually hurt us to say thank you on the front end rather than the back end. Here's why. I'm going to show you a difference. If I were to open my speech by thanking everyone, which by the way 99.9% of speakers do, they say thank you to everyone for being here. I'm so grateful that you're here. I'm so glad that you're here. Okay? That's what everyone does. It can actually hurt you sometimes to thank them on the front end. Instead, just turn your words around and tweak them a little bit if you want to get your audience more engaged. Okay? At the end of this presentation, here's how I'd position it. At the end of this presentation, you're more than welcome to thank me for the information, because I promise you it will be the most important information you've gotten in your life, or in the last 12 months, or on this subject, or in the last year. Okay? You will thank me for giving you the information. This is a small Subtle but huge change. Here's why. When you thank your audience on the front end, you're saying, you're the ones that I should be so grateful for thanking, and I should really listen to you because maybe you're the experts. But by saying you're going to thank me, and I'm more than happy to say you're welcome, right? They'll want to listen. They'll say, well, why am I going to thank this guy? I want to hear what he has to say. Am I going to need to thank him, right? Or this lady? Whatever it is. It's a small tweak, guys. Now, some people will say, Nick, that doesn't work for me. I like to thank my audience for showing up. Great. My answer to that is, try it both ways. See which works better for you. Okay? Not everything works for everybody. I have found that in my experience, by positioning it just a little bit differently like this, I get them more engaged because they want to know, why am I going to be thanking him? Right? They're going to listen more. And at the end of the day, that's all I want, right? I want them to listen and take action. So it's just a small change. And it again separates you from most other speakers that say, thank you, ladies and gentlemen, for coming, right? Everyone says that. Be different, right? Love them or hate them, get out of the middle. That's what's key. So, let's move forward. Give confidence to the audience. How do you do that? Real simple. You tell them, guys, you are going to leave today a more confident, more speedy, more informed, better, and more strategic person than when you walked in today. That I can promise you. Okay? Give them confidence on the front end. What will that do? It will give confidence to you. Okay? Because they're going to be asking you questions. You've asserted now, I'm an expert that's going to be teaching you this. That's what you've said by telling them that. By saying, you're going to leave today a smarter, faster, speedier, more intelligent, better equipped, more strategic and tactical person when you walked in today. What you're really telling them is, I'm going to teach you how to do all that stuff. So what does that reciprocate? Questions. I want to be speedier. Nick, how do I do this? Nick, how do I do that? Jan, John, Steve, Michael, they're going to ask all these questions to all of you, right? And what does that do when they ask you questions about your expertise? Gives you confidence. It is a circular thing. Now, this may sound like a soft subject to you. Like, what are you really talking about here? I want to know the strategies. This is the strategy. If you are more confident, your information will flow better. Okay? Again, it's physiological and mental. That's what really defines a great speaker from an average speaker. So, be a human, not a robot, right? How do you do that? Let me give you a couple ideas. First of all, be transparent. So let me give you a scenario. Someone raises their hand and says, Nick, do you know the answer to X, Y, and Z? If you don't know the answer, this sounds simple, but say you don't know. Say, that is an excellent question, and I would love nothing more than to research it and get back to you with the answer. But I don't know right now. Okay? What does that do? Makes you human. Okay? Somebody that says, I have all the answers, you become a robot. Number one, they know it's not true. They know you don't have the answers, right? Not everyone has all the answers. It's impossible. Nobody does. And all of a sudden, you're not human. And people don't relate to robots. They relate to humans. Right? How do you make yourself human? Make mistakes, right? In fact, I will give you an example, an extreme example, to illustrate this point about mistakes. I was doing a particular presentation where I was traveling around the country, and it was kind of a set presentation that I did in front of audiences. And there were anywhere between 15 to 150 people in the audience, depending on what market I was in, the size. And I gave this presentation, 3 times a day, 5 days a week, for 2 years, okay? Gets pretty mundane after a while. What happened is I became so good at it and so slick that it became robotic.
Yeah.
So what I did was, now you guys, again, I told you this was an extreme example, but in order to humanize myself, and you need to do this if you're not feeling, or if you're feeling robotic at some points, I built mistakes into the pitch. Okay? So I would mispronounce a word on accident to get a laugh and then go back to the right word, because what did it immediately do? it made me human again. Right? He makes mistakes. Right? He stumbles just like us. He's not perfect. I want to buy into a human, not a robot. Right? So if you are ever in a situation where you're presenting the same material over and over and over, build a mistake in. Right? Here's another way to humanize yourself. Okay? Beyond just personal stories, right? You gave a personal story earlier, humanized you. Give a personal story of someone in your family and show a picture of them. Give a personal story of a pet and show a picture of you and the pet. Here's my son and I, or here's my daughter and I, here's my pet and I. Why? You think that has no relevance to what I'm talking about? It has relevance to you as a speaker. The more they know about you and the more you're humanized, the more they will listen to whatever your content is. Okay? By the way, that's my wife back there. The blonde hair. See? Just made me human. Yeah. Yeah. See? I just gave you a secret that you didn't know. Did that humanize me? I knew none of you knew that. Right?
That's why I make him work pro bono.
See? It's the benefits of marital bliss, right? So, let's put it into action, guys. We've been talking about it for going on 3 hours. You got up and got to speak for 30 seconds. We need to put some of this stuff into action. So, in 30 seconds, I want you to write this, guys. I want you to rewrite your stadium pitch using the tools that I gave you today. Okay? Just go back to the tools, rewrite your stadium pitch. I want you to infotain us. I want you to utilize the tools we talked about. And I want you to put yourself on the spot because, by the way, guys, don't our audiences put us on the spot every day when we speak? Right? Don't they throw things at us that we don't expect? Right? So we got to be prepared for the unprepared. Right? So go ahead and take about 30 seconds, 1 minute.
To upgrade what we
To upgrade what you started with and make it even better. Make it even more informative. Use every tool that I gave you, as much as you want, as little as you want, but use the tools that I gave you. Look back at your notes today. Use the tools and figure out how you make it stellar from what you started out with. Okay? Take about a minute to do that. If you need 2 minutes, you got 2 minutes. Think about what would the audience want to keep listening to? What would keep them interested? What would keep you interested? Maybe you want to come at it from that angle. Make it about them, right? Not about us. It's got to be about them. Okay, so let's take a second now and hear everybody's. Who wants to start? You can stand where you are. You don't have to come up the front.
Okay,
So let's hear it.
I'll say. Hurricanes cause a lot of damage and a lot of loss of lives, including property damage. The stress of not being prepared.
That's good.
Who hasn't been through one? Who knows the stress of what we feel before a hurricane is coming? I've been through Hurricane Andrew.
Good.
Who else here has experienced a hurricane?
Me.
Today I'm here to help and give you some solutions.
Awesome. I love it. Much better. Give him a hand, guys. Personal story, inserted real life into it. He made me feel some pain, right, about it. Huge, right? Okay. You want to go next?
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Loss. Who's been through loss? Anybody here lost anything?
Yep.
Loss? January 11th, 2005 was a turning point in my life. I'm going to tell you the story about how I was diagnosed with cancer and overcame it without chemo or radiation.
Awesome. Great job. Do you see how much more engaging they were than their original, right? Just with a couple of small tweaks, right? Let's hear it.
Experiencing a great loss due to domestic violence can become so painful to children. They end up in foster care, a devastating separation from the family foundation. You can help these families by offering your time, parenting skills to the parents in order to reunite the family.
I love it. Awesome. Great job. 100 times better, by the way. I wanted to hear more. Like after I hear the opening, like I do. Compared to the original, that was 10 times more engaging, at least. Let's see what you got.
Good afternoon. Who is that? Who would like to get out of it? Who would like to know about the 3% of the people who control the wealth in the United States?
Awesome. Love it. Oh, was that it? No, there's more? Oh, let's hear more.
Who would like to know about the secret societies?
I like secret societies. I want to know. What's the secret?
Okay, then go to globalinformationnetwork.com and you need to go there by invitation. So the invitation is 2010 HAY money.
Love it.
Money sign.
Excellent. Look how many questions she asked me. And even if I didn't want the answer to the first question, she had 4 more questions. So chances are, you ask 5, 6, 7 questions in your opening, you'll eventually get almost everyone in your audience to say, well, I want to know about that. I might not want to know the other things, but I want to know that. Great job.
Thank you.
Let's hear it.
Okay,
Revised version.
I hope. So how many of you here today have kids? Have you ever messed up so bad with them that you wish you could press the rewind button or the do-over button, whatever? Well, I've been there, and I've had to learn so many times how to say I'm sorry. And as much as it's painful to do that with kids, it's so rewarding. I'd like to teach you some of my techniques.
Awesome. Great job. Yeah. Notice how she used the me too, right? How many of you have ever, oh yeah, definitely, I've been in that situation, right? She immediately got her whole audience going, yep, I've been there, right? Let me hear your personal story. I'm engaging with you, right? 1,000 times better than the original. That was compelling. Very good. Yeah.
Next week.
Okay, next week, even better. It's going to be that much more compelling because you have a week. Okay, and end. So the music ends at a perfect time, right? I always add music, by the way, guys. You might have noticed that. And you say, why is he playing music right now? Because music hits you at an emotional level. Okay? And when music hits you at an emotional level, it helps you think about what is it that I really want to create. So now if you want to create a mood that's more somber, you may play more somber music. If you want to play an upbeat mood, you're going to play upbeat music. And I usually include it in all my presentations at the very beginning and then also at the very end. Okay?
But not while you're speaking.
No. No, not while I'm speaking, because I want them paying attention to me. Unless it's something that I want them playing along with. Okay, like I just did with you guys. Like, I wanted the music playing while you're doing it, because this was showing, number one, I'm gonna break down what I just did for you guys, and I've done this with audiences. I play the music while you're reading your newer version. Okay, because the original version, you were up here, you were more nervous, and the version was your first version. The second version was an upbeat, revised version, and the music was an upbeat, revised song, right? So now you're feeling like, okay, I'm associating this with a good thing, happy music is playing, I'm going to implement it, and you'll be more likely to implement that now, right? I want you to think about advertising for a second. Okay? Advertising is sales. You ever seen a product on TV when they show you the old product, right? It's in a black and white film, and the old product is broken, and the lady is frustrated when she's mopping or something like that. And then they show the new version, and there's music, and it's in color, and she's happy, right?
Pedicure and high heels on.
Exactly. Right? Right? No different than what I just did. You can create those same types of environments I'm trying to show you. Use advertising the way Madison Avenue, New York uses advertising. You can use the same thing in your public speaking scenarios. Okay? To create and incite those same emotions that get people to take action and implement on those ideas. Okay. So, questions on tweaking any of your stadium pitches that you just gave? Comments? Thoughts?
I have to comment, because this is my second week doing this, and the first week I was horrified. You know what's amazing, and I know you guys are probably already feeling it, that when I came in the first week, my biggest fear was, what happens if in the middle of my talk I forget what I'm talking about?
Yeah.
And if you're talking about something you're passionate about, you're not going to forget.
No.
You're going to actually
It's impossible.
have a plethora of information.
You'll never run out.
Examples from your life or from your friend's life, because it is a passion of yours. So you don't have to feel nervous that you're going to forget anything.
Yeah, absolutely. And you hit the nail on the head. You guys have got to find your passion, because you'll never run out of stories, analogies, humor, examples, right? I could talk on this subject for another 4 hours. I know you guys don't want to hear another 4 hours right now, but I could go on for another 4 hours and I wouldn't even need any more slides. Okay, I have enough passion and examples that I could do that. So you want to do the same thing. And by the way, huge credibility when you step aside from the podium, right, and say, this is just me, right? Open hands, I have nothing to hide, transparent. Huge credibility when you're able to do that.
I have to just, you answered this for me last time, but I just want to hear it again.
Mm-hmm.
What if your passion is so great that it almost turns into sarcasm? I have two chiropractors, a husband-wife team. They get up and they give the presentation on eating correctly.
Right.
His turns into sarcasm.
Right.
And
like,
when are you guys going to get kind of, whereas hers stays, and you understand her so much better. Hers stays at a respectful level, like what you're saying with your audience, respect them, whether they're teenagers or adults. Be elegant and respectful.
Right, and here's where the dividing line starts and stops, okay? One person is saying, I'm smarter than you, why aren't you as smart as me? Mm-hmm. The other person is saying, I know that you're missing information and I'm going to help you. Okay? One is a helper, one's a herder. Mm-hmm. One doesn't want to help. You know, if you're at the point where you're now sarcastic, you're beyond caring. Okay? And remember, I gave you the best business strategy in the world at the very beginning. Care. Care about the outcome. Okay? Care about the outcome. If you care about the outcome, you'll never go sarcastic. I can get the most fundamental, simplistic questions. You know, I could get someone right now that asks me, Nick, what about visuals? Are they important? You know, I could get someone that asks me that, and I would say, yes. In fact, if I could get you to remember one thing, it would be use visuals. And I wouldn't be sarcastic about it. Maybe they missed it the first 10 times I talked about it. Maybe the 11th time they'll remember, and I care enough that I'll be patient enough to say it 11 times. Right? Care. That's the strategy you want to use. So, some things to take away from this today, guys. Your objectives need to be measurable. Okay? They need to be measurable. Let me give you an example. You're trying to get someone to stop smoking, okay, right? You were talking about getting people to stop smoking cigarettes or cigars or something along those lines, right? Maybe your objective is, I want to get 80% of the room to commit to a smoking cessation program. Maybe that's a goal. That's a measurable goal. And then you will now get yourself to that level, and that's your goal for every single session. Okay, so that's a measurable goal. So if you're doing 40, 50%, you know you need to implement more passion, more strategy, more tactics, more information, more education, more caring till you get to that 80% level. It's got to be measurable. If you just say, I want to get people to stop smoking, there's no goal, there's no measurement, you have nothing to record yourself by. Okay? Your objectives, okay, they have to be explainable to a 4-year-old. Okay? If a 4-year-old can't explain what it is you're trying to do, your explanation is too complex. Let me give you an example of what I mean. Okay? Give me an example of what you would speak on, for example. Your business. Explain it to me.
Okay, so like selective and proper pruning. And I would go by the guidelines of the International Arborist Society. We have a rule called the AR 300.
Okay? Why are you doing that? Why do you prune the trees?
Well, the pruning the trees is to allow air to flow through the trees.
And what can trees do if they have air?
And if the air has be able to go through, they're more hurricane resistant, not going to fall over on you.
So they'll live longer.
Live longer, and the weaker branches and so forth are not torn, or the main branches are not damaged because of a seal.
Okay, so if I were going to explain that again to a 4-year-old, because you went immediately into a law, that's too complex. It's got to be explainable. You're talking to an audience, okay? I'm here to tell you how to make your trees live longer so they're happier, okay? And so that we preserve them in their original state. A 4-year-old could explain that. I'm here to talk about tree preservation and life length. Okay, something as simple as that. All right, that needs to be the core of your discussion. If it's any more complex than that, I promise you guys, at some point you will speak to an audience that won't understand what you're talking about. And they're not 4-year-olds, these are adults that sometimes miss things. Okay? Take the tech out. Okay? Remember, you're there to talk about the objective, not about the process. Okay? Now, if you're speaking to a group of experts, that's different. Then you're going to bring some tech into it. All right? But you always, and this is key, guys, I would write this down, always speak to the lowest common denominator in the room. In other words, if you think you have 100 people in the room and there's one person that might not understand, go that extra mile for that one person. Because you lose that one person and it may be 50 people. Right? Okay? Handouts and takeaways. Okay? This is important. If someone, for example, if there weren't notepads and pens that were set out today, I would have had handouts that you could take away with you. Okay, there's got to be something tangible that someone takes away. So when they walk away, they're walking away with something they can hold in their hands and say, this holds the information, keys, and secrets to what I got today. Right? If it's all in your head, you're going to forget it. Right? It's got to be something tangible. Okay? If you're planning on coming back in 2 weeks, and I hope you all are, okay, here's your homework. It's really easy. Come back with questions. Come back with comments, okay? If you do a speaking engagement in the next 2 weeks, employ some of these tools and tell me how they worked. If they didn't work, I want to hear about that, okay? Come back with ideas. Maybe something you want to try or you're thinking about trying, you want to know, how can I employ that, all right? Put these things into action, guys. That's what's going to make the changes, is actually putting it into action. All right? Here's something that I will leave you with before we break up. If you're not getting laughed at, guys, you're not trying hard enough. Okay? And what I mean by that is be outrageous. All right? Give them information and value that they don't expect. All right? Make a claim that they think you're crazy about and then prove the claim to them. All right? The example I always use is this quote, which I absolutely love. It says, whether you believe you can or you can't, either way you're right.
That's good.
It's right.
Okay? Either way you're right. The guy who said this was Henry Ford. Okay, and he had a dream back in the late 1890s of a horseless carriage. All right, and people laughed at him. He said, "I'm going to create a carriage with wheels and this thing called a motor, and you won't need horses anymore." Everyone laughed at him. So if you're not being laughed at, you're not going for something big enough. Okay. Go big or go home. All right, my wife taught me that. So now I'm stealing it from her. I'll give her credit once. After that, it's mine. All right, guys, go big or go home. Go for something big. It's okay if you're laughed at. It means you're onto something. All right, I will see you all in 2 weeks. Please, if you think you have a friend, an acquaintance, a family member, an employee that you work with, a colleague, someone that can benefit from this, bring them. Okay, bring them. We'd love to have them. I'd love to get their insight. I learn as much from you guys as you get from me. So thank you so much for coming out today. We certainly appreciate it. You're very welcome. It was my pleasure. It was my pleasure. Have a great weekend, guys.